Aloha, everyone. It's Antonio with HypnosisProductReviews.com. Today I'm interviewing Chris Moneyfingers, Mr. Moneyfingers Haddad. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm glad you remembered it's Mr. Moneyfingers because that's important. People just use money. I did a webinar a few weeks ago where they just said Moneyfingers, and I was like, "What? This isn't cool." No.
Like, no, Mr. Moneyfingers.
You got to use the honorific, man. I earned that title. Actually, I was given that title by a client of mine about 8 years ago, Joe Barton, who owns Barton Publishing, quite a very successful info publishing business. And I had written something like 5 or 6 letters for him, and he called me Mr. Moneyfingers over email once. And I said, "That's a great name. Can I use that?" And he said, "Yes." Next thing I know, I named my corporation Moneyfingers Inc. So it's kind of my thing.
That's a good way to do it.
It's not bad, man. Hey, sometimes you just got to recognize when somebody has a good idea and run with it. So.
For my audience that's watching, listening to this, my millions of fans, I'm imagining that I have
millions. Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that I pretty much, this is a hypnosis NLP podcast, and may be wondering why I'm interviewing a copywriter. I love the eye roll. Mainly the reason that I'm interviewing him is copywriting is persuasion. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Hypnosis and NLP, it's all about persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get an idea over to somebody. Now, can you give my audience an idea of what emotional copywriting is? I know that it's one of your fortes.
I would say I'm known as, so copywriting in general, for people that don't know what that is, because they might not, is basically when you're writing advertising stuff, essentially, right? So direct response copywriters, which is what I was for a long time before I started my own business, are basically people that write long-form sales letters, videos, things like that convince you to buy some stuff, whatever it's going to be. By the way, I've been told I'm very good at NLP, even though I've never studied it at all. So hey, there you go. I've had Marshall Silver. Yeah, you probably know Marshall Silver, and he actually went through one of my sales videos once with me when we were chatting, and was pointing out all the hypnotic phrases I was using. And I'm like, I don't know anything about that, Marshall. That's your forte. I just know how to sell. I just know how to sell stuff. That's what I know.
No, I know Marshall. I met him. I think it was 2 years ago in Vegas.
Yep.
And he was trying some of the embedded.
Oh, he does a lot of that. Yeah.
Yes, with me, and I kind of looked at him like, dude, no, don't even try it.
I know the biz. Yeah, I know what you're doing. I will say that Marshall Silver, the most effective in-room pitchman I've ever seen in my entire life. I've seen him sell. I saw him sell 45% of the room a $2,000 product at one particular event. So he's good at that.
You see him when he's doing the sales pitch, when he has somebody take the how do you call it, the stick on fire, has them put it in their mouth, put it out.
He was selling that program, I think. Turning Point, I think he calls it. It's basically his version of the Tony Robbins stuff, right?
Oh, yeah,
anyway, emotional copywriting. Yeah. Oh, he can sell. He sells like a motherfucker, man. He knows what he's doing. It's a little scary, honestly. So for me, emotional copywriting, I never really think about it as a separate thing. I guess it's just something that I'm known for, is being particularly emotional in my copy and telling stories in copy that other people don't do a lot of the times. I know a lot of copywriters, great ones even, who somebody asked me once, how much research do you do before you write a sales letter? And I'm not a research guy. I got ADHD up the wazoo. What I do know how to do, though, is how to get into the emotional state and mind of an audience and know what bugs the hell out of them and what's keeping them up at night and what's painful to them about whatever particular issue we're dealing with. And then coming up with copy that really agitates that pain and makes them feel it and makes them kind of go to a point where and builds that up to a point where they're like, okay, they just want release, usually through a story, and then selling them a product from there. But for me, it's all about emotions. Mark Twain said there's 2 reasons a man buys something: the reason he buys it and the reason he tells his wife. Because Mark Twain was a smart guy. And I've used that line on stage several times, and what I say is my version of that is there's 2 reasons somebody buys something. The reason he buys it and the reason he tells himself, right? All sales is based off emotion.
Emotion, and then so you mean the reason you're telling yourself is the logic you're following it up with.
Yeah, exactly. You basically buy based on emotion, you justify with logic. And your job as a copywriter or anybody who's trying to sell is to get somebody into the point where they emotionally want something so badly. And you're often not even selling the product. There's one, my most recent thing was called Language of Desire, which we did through my digital romance company. It did extremely well. I just checked stats. It's doing extremely well it's continuing to do extremely well, which makes me really happy. And that program is basically a dirty talk program for women, right? Like when you really boil it down to what it is. But we don't sell the idea of being able to talk dirty as the pitch. We sell the idea of being able to get a man psychologically and sexually addicted to you without even telling him, without even touching him, basically, right? Like that kind of thing. You're always going for that extreme kind of promise and that extreme emotional need that your market has, whatever that might be. When you're selling make money stuff, you don't, some people will walk around and they flash all the dollar bills and things like that. When I'm selling, I haven't done this in years, but when I was selling how to make money programs, I wouldn't do any of that. What I would do instead is I would talk about envy, and I would talk about, can you imagine what it's going to be like to wake up in the morning and you walk out to get your newspaper and you're still wearing your bathrobe, put on, your fuzzy $1,000 bathrobe that you put on that morning, you're wearing slippers, you walk out the front door, you're padding down the driveway, down to the mailbox, you feel great because you're in the best shape of your life, you've got, you actually have the time to work out now, you walk by your nice car, and then you look over into your neighbor's yard, and you see your neighbor, Joe, over there, who's still 50 pounds overweight, shoving himself into this tiny little compact VW, and he's looking miserable and almost like he's drunk right there, and you can see that his back hurts.
Hey, I'm ready to buy now. I'm ready to buy. Where's the buy button?
Exactly, but I didn't even talk about a product, right? Like that's not what it's about. It's about the fantasy. I guess
what the product is going to do.
Yeah, and it's about, and a lot of times it's about future pacing. I can actually say future pacing, and you know what I'm talking about, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is about future pacing and just being like, I close most of my letters these days, and I've been doing this for a while, with what's called the Crossroads close, which I think I picked up or stole from Clayton Makepeace years ago, who's a fantastic copywriter. And it's basically just like you get to the end of your pitch and you say, hey, okay, so you're at a crossroads right now. And when you think about it, you just got 2 options or 3 options sometimes. And the options are usually things like, well, you can leave right now. You can try to forget everything you just learned. You can go back to feeling exactly how you were feeling when you first got to this video. Feeling that pain in your chest that your ex-girlfriend is never going to want to talk to you again. You can go back to sitting up all night, searching the internet, feeling that desperation, blah, blah, blah. Or option 2 is often, or you can, try to solve this problem yourself. You can take the valuable information I just gave you in this video that teaches you the psychological aspects of why your ex won't talk to you now, and you can try to go out there and do all the research into human psychology to be able to develop the text yourself that would actually get her to come crawling back to you on her knees. But you and I both know that that's going to take a long time and that life is going to get in the way and you're just not going to get around to doing it. Or you could do option 3, which means risking absolutely nothing. All you have to do right now is just click the Add to Cart button down below and enter your credit card information, and you risk absolutely nothing because you know you're backed up by the 60-day guarantee, and you can take all the work I did for you, and you can have her cuddling back up into your arms on the couch to watch Doctor Who this time next week, right? And it's just, you're basically just, putting them in a place of, you're reminding them, because oftentimes what I do in videos emotionally is you're bringing them from this point of horror to a point of elation, and then as the final close, you're putting them right back, you're reminding them what they're going back to. Right? Because what they're really buying into, if you go to, for those of you who are listening, go to languageofdesire.com. If you're a woman, you'll probably end up buying the product, and if you're a guy, you'll probably try to get your wife or girlfriend to buy the product. But just watch that video and just keep a meter of yourself about what you're feeling at different times during that video. And most women, it starts off with being intrigued, then disgusted, then excited. There's like this whole kind of ride that I'm very purposely taking people on throughout that entire thing. Because that video opens up with "Talk Dirty to Me," he said, on our 1-year anniversary. And it tells a story about Felicity Keith, who's the author of the program, her boyfriend asking her to talk dirty and she not knowing what to say, basically, saying something really stupid. And then, they do what they do, and she wakes up in the middle of the night and she walks out to the living room and finds him watching pornography and masturbating in the middle of the night on their anniversary. Unsatisfied.
This wasn't taken from my life, was it?
I don't know. Have you woken up in the morning in the middle of the night and seen your boyfriend masturbating to porn?
No, I meant me. No, okay.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the idea there is that story is constructed from a very dense emotional place, right? That story is constructed from the fears, it's based on reality to a certain degree around like, women or men not being completely satisfied sexually with the women they're with, because they're generally not, but also it's built around the fears that all these women have of not being enough, not being good enough, not being able to be his focus. And I was able to create that story because I know that market well enough to know what they really want, right? And what they really want is not what they think they want most of the time, you know this, or what they say they want. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is surveying people and asking them what they want, right? Because they'll tell you, oh, I want a new car. Oh, I want $1 million. Oh, I want this. That's not what you want. What you really
want what it gives them.
Well, no, and what they really want is the emotional results. Most people, why do you want to get rich? Oh, so I can finally pay my bills and do this. No. So you can feel powerful. So you can get your brother to shut the fuck up, right? Or your brother-in-law to shut the fuck up. So your wife will stop telling you that you're a failure. All of these kind of things. It's really more about, you can learn more about humanity most of the time from a playwright than from a businessman around these kind of things about like what does this stuff really mean to them? And so when I'm writing letters, Checks the Romance Back, Language of Desire, Power for Home, I did a bunch. I haven't taken clients in 5 years now, I guess, because I figured out that taking clients was stupid when you can just do the stuff for yourself. But when I was doing that, I would often, get hired to come in and be the turnaround guy on a letter. They'd say, okay, we have a letter, it's doing okay, but we hear you're really good, and I'd charge them a large amount of money, and I'd say, okay, let me see what I can do. And I would literally spend 2 days with it and change the letter, and I would, take it from being, for Power for Home, I took it from being a letter that was really about how to save money on your power bill, which is kind of boring, to being about, boring. It's really boring. I mean, it's a benefit. You're going to save money on your power bill. I changed it to, the benefit I accelerated it to basically was you're going to wake up every single morning excited, wagging your tail like a puppy, run out to the mailbox, desperately rip open the mail and smile like crazy when you see the check the government was forced to sell you, right? Which
sounds way better.
It sounds way better, but it's also the actual video, the sales video. I don't talk about solar cells. I don't talk about the science behind it in any way. I don't talk about, I don't know any of that stuff. What I talk about is a guy who's 50 years old and has younger kids, and he's in Minnesota, and he's kind of conservative, and the real the ball kicker of that story is it basically says I'll never forget the horror I felt when my little daughter patted her way into the living room, her lips almost blue, and said, "Daddy, I'm cold." Right? Because for me, it's like sales is all about the emotions of your market. And I know for a fact, you want to sell to a guy who's over 40, you go for shame at not being able to protect his family.
Really. Oh yeah.
You want to make a bunch of money selling to especially conservative guys. Who are over, even 35, but it works on pretty much anybody. But really, for guys, for that, shame is an intensely powerful emotion, and most people are incredibly scared of it, scared of letting themselves down, letting their wives down, letting their families down, letting their kids down is huge, right? Because there's so much emotion attached there. So for me, emotionally, I think. What I've been told that I'm better at than pretty much anybody else in the copywriting world is mining these deep emotions the market has, and going beyond just hey, I'm going to teach you how to cure your herpes thing or whatever else, or I'm going to teach you this, to really getting down to what is really going on with them. Where psychologically are these people? And it's almost like doing cold reading through a video. Right? Because I've been told from people, it's oh my God, I identified with that so much. Now, obviously, you can't really do a cold read through a video because you can't see them, you're not interacting. What you do instead is you use a character, and you have a character who goes through a situation which elicits a ton of empathy from the person watching, where they feel like that could be me, except for what the character is going through, or the guru, or whoever it is you're talking about, is going through something much worse, right? And the idea there is, I went through this and survived it, and it survived it because of this program. What do you think it can do for you? Right? But it's, again, to me, the idea of when you sent me these questions earlier today, you're what is emotional copywriting? I'm I don't really know, honestly. I never really thought about it that way before. I think it's just the way that I write things. I'm a very emotional person. So I write about emotions.
I don't know. You got to wipe that teardrop you got going on.
I know, I'm very sad. Yeah. But no, it's just more about like, the way you get good at that kind of writing and really eliciting those emotions is by developing your empathy as a human being, really, right? By studying people, by studying psychology, by studying things like NLP, or I actually have studied hypnosis to some degree. I went to I did a 6-day like hypnosis seminar taught by Igor Lidakowski several years back, and that was fun. Yeah, it was actually in Seattle. They were in Seattle, so it's up there.
Oh, I remember when he was doing that. Yeah, he's one of the better ones in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Igor. Yeah.
His back of the room sales are pretty damn good. He's honed them over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Clifford Mead. I know his business partner reasonably well, and I actually wrote a letter for them years ago, which is how I got invited to the thing. But we did like that 6-day seminar, and halfway through it, people were like, "So how long have you been doing hypnosis?" I'm like, 2 days. And they're like, "What?" They're all shocked. I'm like, "Well, this isn't that hard, is it? You basically you just speak in a lower voice and give commands. And it's like, this does not seem difficult to me, folks. I don't know why it's difficult for you." But,
it's funny. Igor's, I've been in the hypnosis community for a while. Igor's, no offense to him, awesome guy. I've interviewed him before. His tribe, or I think his marketing brings some oddball characters.
I can believe that. Yeah.
Oh, you get them because he has a whole, conversational control people do this. Mm-hmm. So you get some. I remember I was doing a demo session with somebody. I just felt kind of like the rapey vibes. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Well, yeah, I know that he used to sell a lot into the pickup community with stuff. He would basically, guys would buy it as a way to try to get girls out of their pants. And sure, that stuff works, but it's also a little bit like, this is creepy. What are you doing?
Instead of the pickup material, I'm like, how about you just don't be creepy? That usually works for most guys.
Well, that works for most guys if you also have confidence, and actually, that what that ends up being is almost self-hypnosis, where you basically have to believe that you actually have something of value to give.
Exactly.
Because most guys don't. I certainly didn't when I was younger, and wouldn't have my beautiful wife now if I was still acting like that. I can see her right now. She's in the kitchen.
She's washing dishes, isn't she?
She was washing dishes, and then she was doing stretching, so that was always pleasant. But again, like, to me, it's just, I don't know, for some reason over the years, I've just honed and developed my ability to live in this emotional world for whatever reason. And it's funny, because I'm not the most, like, I'm not like a hippy-dippy person. I'm not somebody who's like, I do have mood swings on occasion, but I'm not somebody who's like I don't cry ever, really, right? Like, for me to end up crying, it means either my wife left me or the dog died or something like that. Like, I don't cry regularly, but I'm able to slip into the mindset. Maybe I think you guys would probably even call it modeling, but slip into the mindset of whoever I'm writing to or as at that point. I remember I wrote an email for somebody's promoting a back pain list is promoting our Language of Desire offer. And they needed some custom swipe to bridge between back pain and Dirty Talk, basically. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty easy. And I was like, well, really, it's about empathizing with the fact that when you're in pain all the time, your sex life goes way the hell down, and your husband becomes more of a caretaker instead of a lover, and then you're afraid he's going to cheat on you. Okay, so I wrote about that from a woman's point of view, and it took me like an hour afterwards to stop thinking like her. Right?
Yeah, I saw you write about it.
Yeah, it was actually, I just really. I mean, I was joking about that to a certain degree, but it's actually true to a degree where you're just like I was just writing some stuff yesterday as like a 58-year-old former insurance salesman dude, and you just kind of get into that mindset. It's almost like an acting thing. You just become that person as you're writing.
The method acting.
Yeah, I guess so. Though I would never I would never gain 50 pounds for a role or anything like that. I'm not going to cut off my dick so I can write as a woman.
Exactly.
But just like mentally slotting yourself in there a little bit and thinking, okay, what would it feel like to be this person? What would the anxiety be? Because everybody's got anxiety, and direct marketing is all about selling relief from anxiety more than anything else, stopping the pain that people are going through, the pain they don't even know they're going through most of the time. So I will say that, yeah.
No, sorry, I was going to say it's funny. I was interviewing John Benson a couple months ago, and I was asking him. I was asking him about. He brought up the fact about about getting somebody to think about a pain they're not even going through. And I asked someone, like, in regards to like a divorced guy's niche, they want to get back in the dating game. Like, what? I'm like, what? I'm like, I asked him what would be a good thing to point out, and he's like, well, you could point out on either sales letter or copy on a page, and just bring up the fact, be like, hey, did you know that guys that don't have a regular sex life end up getting prostate problems? And he's talking about like something called like the dick saw, where he's like, you want to take that problem they don't know about it and exaggerate the hell out of it.
Yeah, that would work. The way so John and I are good friends, and I think he's a damn good writer and has done a lot of great stuff. But what my approach would just be about how worthless they feel. like it would be, just imagining. I know divorced guys I've been broken up with before, and it's like, to me, that's actually too intellectual, right? Like the fact of like, oh, if you're not having sex on a regular basis, you're going to get prostate cancer. That's not bad, but it doesn't really cut. It's not something. I would rather enter the conversation already going on in their mind than create a new conversation. Now you can do that with like, if you have a shocking new fact or something like that, or even, and I think that is a good example as far as a stopper. But to me, guys not having sex have more prostate problems. If I was a guy in that state who wasn't having sex, I'd be like, fuck, now I'm going to get cancer too, because I still don't know how to get laid. Right? Like you would need to kind of find a way to really meld that well, to get that together well. To me, that's more something to bring up later in the video, right? But where I would start would be either with a big promise or a story. I would start with basically, I always start my letters either confirming or denying a deeply held belief, right? You either want to confirm a deeply held belief they already have, or you want to say the absolute opposite in a shocking way. And you want to say you've been lied to or something like that. Or, oftentimes I'll do this through a story. But if you look at the LOD story, for instance, it's basically confirming their deepest held fears about what's actually going on with men. Right? It's confirming their deepest held prejudices. If you're going to the conservative Christian market, you do the same thing. You confirm their deepest held fears. I'm working on a letter right now for a program that I'm doing with some partners called the Salvation Diet, and it's basically, the opening of that one is, I looked in the mirror and realized I was insulting God, right? Like that's the opening line, really, of the video, and
that'll hit the religious, the Bible bangers.
Yeah, but what is that? But if you understand emotions, like that one line tells a whole story. Right? Now, obviously, throughout the letter, you're going to tell that, you're going to expand on that story, but just that one line encapsulates a lot of the problem that's going on there. Like, the idea of letting down God, the idea of, I think a lot of Christians really do, like, they look around and they're like, why is everybody in my church so fat? I don't quite get it. What's going on? Like, and we go from there. And these days, like, I won't even write a letter until I've kind of got that hook line, that storyline idea really solidly in my head. I came up with one that I'm not going to tell you right now because we're just getting it ready, but it's one of the most vicious things I've ever written in my life, actually. But to me, like,
it's pretty bad then.
It's a kick in the balls one, yeah. When I used to teach some of this stuff, I would call it punch in the gut copy because I didn't want to say kicked in the balls copy. But a lot of times, John's stuff is, and I've never been through John's programs. He's never been through anything I've produced either because we're friends, and I think that we do things very differently. Like his formula versus the way I tend to work are very, very different. His is effective. A lot of people have made a lot of money that way. I'm not knocking John at all. He's a great dude. But like I've never actually done what he would call a pattern interrupt as an open, ever. Like the whole this is a bag of candy, and I'm going to show you how this bag of candy can make your dick grow 5 inches.
Hey kids, this is a bag of candy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how this Reese's peanut butter cup can do that. I think we've tested that kind of thing, and maybe it's just the way that I write. It doesn't really work for me. I also think it's kind of overdone at this point because everybody bought John's course, right? Yeah. And so everybody that's producing sales letters and sales videos is doing it that way, which means I'm going to do something else. Right? Because it's one of the mistakes people make is they think there's one way of doing something. They're like, oh, I have to write like Chris Haddad, or I have to write like John Benson, I have to write like John Carlson, or I have to write like this. I'm like, no, you have to write like yourself from a place of energy, right? And like passion. and empathy and whatever else. And there's some people that are very logical copywriters, there's some people that are very, I'm deeply emotional and also go for the logic when I can. I will say when we're writing to the women's market, I don't worry about logic that much. Worrying about logic too much when you're selling to 45-year-old women, single women, is actually a waste of time. It'll actually push them away more than anything else. Getting too deeply into this. Not to say that women are stupid or anything like that. They're certainly not. But just it's not something that it's not the kind of proof that they're looking for. They're looking for emotional proof, not factual proof in that same way. They're much more interested in success stories and testimonials than they are in metrics, right? That kind of thing. And again, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything here. It's just that, like, from experience, from testing, it's all about the emotion, right? I think this is why women are more likely to believe in astrology than men are, or something like that. You know, the woo-woo market is something like 70% women. Most men are kind of like, that's bullshit. What are you talking about? Yeah.
I've even noticed that with hypnosis. Like most girls, if it's like the new age, you call it piques their interest.
Yep. Whereas for men, it's about control, right? It's about power in a large way.
Exactly.
Men who want to learn hypnosis they usually, and again, if you're writing something about hypnosis, you can do the control thing. You can do that if you're writing to men, or just the feeling of inadequacy, the feeling of worthlessness. Most people who end up studying hypnosis and NLP do it not so much so they can be a better salesperson, so they can
help themselves.
Also, they can not be the skinny geek in the corner who gets beat up by the football jocks. Like, emotionally, most people still see themselves as who they were in high school. Like fundamentally.
Oh yeah.
Like that's like self-image wise. If you ripped open most people's heads and asked them who they were or saw who they thought they were, most people who haven't done the work to actually become an adult still kind of see themselves as that skinny geek in high school. And they see themselves as an imposter. They see themselves as a fraud. They see themselves as worthless.
A loser, a failure, there's a bunch of stuff.
Everybody's an outsider, right? Like, look at Hollywood, look at movies. What do they always have? It's always the outsider who finally gets in. By the way, even the popular people think they're outsiders, right? Even the rich and famous think they are outsiders, think they are not part of the cool group. Everybody does, right? Except for a few psychopaths, basically, but most of them, So yeah, for me, emotion is everything as far as selling goes, and it's not about you're not selling the product. You're always selling the results, and you're selling the emotion of the results, right? You're not just selling you're going to have a business that makes more money. You're selling how's that going to make you feel. You're selling the power that comes with that. You're selling the pride.
The attention, the pride.
Yeah, exactly. And I think where people fall short a lot of the times is they don't dimensionalize the benefit they're going for. They don't go that extra step. And if you look in copywriting books, they'll say, feature benefit translation stuff is like, you'll get 3 hours of CDs on how to learn hypnosis. And I'm like, that's just a feature. The benefit is you're going to discover the simple secret to turning any girl on just simply by whispering one word in her ear, right? And the deeper benefit to that is you're not going to be a geek who can't get laid anymore.
You're going to have the confidence.
You're going to have it's not. You don't even need confidence, is what it really is. Because I'm going to tell you exactly what to say. So why do you need confidence? There's no confidence involved. It's like, I don't need confidence to write a sales letter because I've done it 150 times at this point, right? I know how to do it. It's easy. What if talking to girls was as easy as tying your shoes, and automatic as tying your shoes? When was the last time you actually thought about tying your shoes? Try thinking about tying your shoes right now and then try to tie your shoes. You can't do it, can you?
Have you ever used that in a sales letter?
I know, but I'm going to. I really like that one, the tying shoes thing.
I think I'm going to use it.
You can use it, yeah. That's actually, I actually like that a lot because it's like, have you ever stopped and tried to remember how to tie your shoes?
No.
Oh, well, I have, and you're like, what do I do again? Because it's become so automatic. It's gone back into your unconscious mind to such a degree that thinking about it actually makes it harder. And what if picking up girls could be as easy as tying your shoes, where you didn't even need to think about it, it just automatically happened. Your shoes don't fall off, and you get laid.
Oh, I'm gonna have to steal that. No.
Yeah, it's good. I like that stuff.
what is something that you have to believe about yourself in order to be good at what you do?
At the copywriting part of it?
Yeah. I guess when you're in the empathy part of it, because it sounds like that's your biggest.
You have to have confidence that you do. You have to have the confidence that you understand people, and you have to understand. Actually, it's not even a belief system, as an understanding that people are not as unique as we think we are. Right? Like you have to have the confidence to be able to say, my personal experience is universal. Right? Because it is. Like versions of it are. Anyway, right? Like, I don't know exactly what it's like to be, anybody else in the world, but I know what it's like to feel shame. I know what it's like to walk up to a girl and be nervous. I know what it's like to do this. I know what it's like to do that. And I think it's really the confidence and the understanding that the darkness that you feel in you is felt by everyone, right? The inadequacy that you feel is felt by everyone, or at least everyone who you're going to make a sale to, right? Like, there's no point in trying to sell to people who are already perfect in every way, right? Or have everything they want already. Nobody has everything they want, by the way. I guess I do, because I don't really want that much. But it's the confidence to be able to mine your own life and your own psychology for material that you can use to create connection with an audience and create connection with a reader or a customer, right? And understanding like that. There are, this is something that I talked to John Carlton before about, like, all the time people will say, well, my business, you can't use direct copy in my business. My business is different. Like, you're totally fucking wrong. Your business is not different, right? And in our relationship advice business, we get women all the time. They will write these 3,000-word emails to our customer support, really, like these incredibly detailed emails, and they're all about how they met this guy and he's wonderful, blah 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 blah, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and the end result is Andy's married. What do I do? Right? And I'm like, none of this other shit matters. None of this detail is actually any different than anybody else. Right? It's the same story over and over and over again. But as humans, we trick ourselves into thinking we're special. We think that we are unique little snowflakes and that our thoughts have never been thought by anyone else before, and that we've never, teenagers in particular, no one has ever suffered like I have suffered when you're a teenager, right?
I'm all alone.
I'm all alone, and I know some teenagers. You talk to them, and you can even say, dude, I get it. I was there. They're like, no one's ever loved anyone like I love, Kate or whatever else. I'm like, yeah, there's billions of people on the planet, and there's been billions more. You are not unique. And once you kind of get to the point where you really realize people aren't unique, you realize that a lot of your experiences can be translated to a more universal thing. And then it gets even creepier, because what you do then is you understand that the way to empathize with somebody and activate that universal connection is by telling extremely emotionally specific stories, right? Like, the worst thing you can do is be really broad. Like an astrologer or something like that at that point. Because astrology is basically just
like a cold reader using like
a exactly
effect.
You use that for a little while and you try to get more specific. But what you do in copy instead is you tell a specific story about somebody who is experiencing those same emotions, and you have it written in a way that the person who's watching the video or reading the copy feels like they are that character. Right? They feel like you use very descriptive language. You use, you talk about feelings and imagination, and some of the power words that you kind of learn in hypnosis, like feel and imagine are basically the most powerful words I've ever heard in my life, as far as getting anybody to do anything you want, honestly. But you make people feel like they're going through that journey, and then you offer the product as the escape to it, escape from that journey, right? And the way I do most of my stuff these days, and again, my writing's been evolving over the years, but what I do most of the time these days is really focusing on that empathy story and that horror story and that turning point of like, oh, this is when everything changed. Yeah.
So how do you? I'm sorry. Do you do? So you said you have the horror story, empathy, and the turning point. So do you start off? Oh, do you start off with the empathy, then the horror, then like the nightmare, and then the turning?
Well, usually it depends on the letter. Like the way I open letters, sales videos, and again, we test everything, right? So we find out what works and what doesn't. The traditional way that I used to do it all the time was Hi, I'm Chris, and in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to teach you a secret method to make penguins do jumping jacks that you've never heard of before. Blah blah blah. In fact, actually, when you learn this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I basically start off with the big promise, right? That usually works. You can also start off with a shocking fact. It could be something new. Do you know that artificial sweeteners used in Coca-Cola have been shown to give over 40 million Americans diabetes, right? Like, and then, or I would do something like, I was sitting in my most comfortable chair drinking my Diet Coke when the news came on and pissed me off so much I had to make this video, right? So the third one's the most emotional, and there's something unlike, in copy circles, when you're first learning how to write copy, which isn't largely it's persuasion, so it's an extension of all this other stuff we talk about. You'll hear again and again about the you orientation. You'll hear all again and again about how the word I is toxic to copy. If you talk about yourself, then you're drawing away. And that's true if you do it wrong, right? Like, it is true that you should be talking about what's going to happen for you, Antonio, when you learn the magical secrets of writing copy, like Chris Haddad is this and this, like, having that kind of thing. But I can actually be very powerful if you create because people love to hear stories, and they love to hear personal stories, and they love to feel like the way that humans get to know each other is always by looking for commonality, right? Like, if I meet a bald guy, I'm like, hey, you're bald, how do you do it? From somebody from Massachusetts, same kind of thing. We're always looking for that. And if you tell what seems like an extremely personal story that you would only tell to your best friend, then it draws people in. Showing vulnerability can be very, very powerful in a video.
Having a balance.
Yeah, and again, if you go through my stuff, you'll see plenty of hypey sales messages, especially at the end. I make a lot of big promises. I have a lot of bullets. I do all that kind of thing. But I want to go from intellectual to emotional as quickly as possible. Most of the time. I have other letters, like, we have one that's 7 ways to tell if a man loves you. Right? Emotional topic. And certainly there's a lot of emotional language in that video. I don't tell any stories in that video. What I do instead is I actually tell them the signs that their husband or boyfriend doesn't really love them, and then the product is all about how to change that, essentially, right? So there's different approaches to go, but it's all just about, like, the reason I even did that one was because I've discovered over and over again that was a tremendous anxiety for a huge percentage of our audience, was how do I know he really loves me and isn't just using me for sex? How do I know that? And they were able, and a lot of them were even able to articulate that. But that anxiety tears at women, right?
Oh, that's a huge problem for women.
Yeah. Most men don't sit around worrying about it too much, which is always kind of funny for, like, when we teach our programs to women. Like, one of the things I have to teach in the Secret Survey, which is one of our programs for women, is like, yeah, your husband, your boyfriend, even if he really loves you, he's not thinking about you that much when you're not around. He's just not. He's thinking about what he's doing. He's thinking about other stuff. He's thinking about sports.
In the moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because a lot of women, what they want, again, what do they really, really want deep in their hearts? They want him to be obsessed with her and only her, to never even look at other women, to cut his fingers off rather than tap the keyboard and go to a porn site, to feel dedicated and want to have a lifelong love affair where she is the only person for him. Even if she lost all of her limbs and was horribly scarred, he would still see her as the most beautiful woman who has ever been on this earth, etc., 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 etc.
Humans are interesting.
Well, humans are stupid, and we know. The more I learn about, and again, probably studied a lot of similar stuff to what I have, is just like, my viewpoint on the world and humanity is that we're the only creature who thinks we're rational. We're not at all, right? Like,
no.
Human beings are not rational, but because we have consciousness and because we have logic and because we can see A plus B equals C, and we can see causality, all these things, we think that we're rational when we're not at all. And people will sometimes say, oh, I can't be sold to that way. It's usually guys who are engineers, right, or even autistic, who will be like, oh, that won't work on me. I'm like, give me a minute. like you just gotta get them the right way, right? You gotta figure out
about it,
where their loneliness comes from.
if you think about it, you have the whole rationality, whatever thing. You've got if you want to use terms from hypnosis, you've got conscious mind, unconscious mind. Unconscious mind's kind of like playful, like a kid, if you want to use that analogy. And there's always that disconnect. That's why people have problems. They don't realize what their unconscious at. Even though their unconscious might be showing them a problem like anxiety, the unconscious is trying to get them get a message across to them like, hey, there's an unresolved issue from your past. Take care of this shit.
Well, but here's the real deal. Most people make the mistake of they don't know who they are or what they are as a creature, right? Like most people have not studied psychology or humanity at all, right? Or they've just they've been spoon-fed morality from some religion or something like that. And they don't understand, for instance, in psychology, like I was reading some book a while ago that basically explained the concept of the gestalt mind and how, so Mel Gibson, for instance. Mel Gibson, he got drunk, he said some racist things, etc. A couple of years back, right? And Jodie Foster goes on the air. She's a good friend of Mel Gibson. She's saying that Mel Gibson's a wonderful guy and that he would, he would never do that and blah blah blah. And the question all the headlines were saying was, is Mel Gibson a wonderful guy or is he a racist, a religious zealot and a racist? And the answer is yeah, right? Like the answer is yes. The answer is he is both of these things. Like this is not. These are not mutually exclusive, by the way. As human beings, we are multitudes. They've actually shown that when you're drunk, a different part of your brain is actually in charge than when you're not drunk, right? They've shown that, like, when you're talking to yourself, when you're in your brain and you're debating something back and forth in your own head, it actually is different parts of your brain debating over something, right? But most people have this idea that we are. I am Chris Haddad. I must be consistently Chris Haddad all the time. I see things. This is reality. Well, you study enough, you realize 99% of what you see isn't even there, right? Your brain is just. I think it's something like 30 to 50% of what you see at any given moment is being filled in by your brain. Because there's that blind spot in your eye, and you also don't know what's over here and over here, and you're basically seeing by constantly scanning all over the place, right? And basically creating a pixelated view, and your brain is just filling everything else in. And there's some really fascinating studies where people who have gone blind will actually still be seeing things. Or people have like a particular blind spot, it'll get filled in with cartoon characters, it'll get filled in with fantasy landscapes, it'll get filled in with their bedroom from when they were a kid, and they see that. Because it's your brain desperately trying to make sense of the blankness that shouldn't be there, right? So for me, when you start learning about this stuff and you start realizing, this is actually why it's difficult for me to accept things like religion, because when you start like really studying all this stuff and getting deeper and deeper into just how the brain works and how psychology works and how and why people believe things and how to change their beliefs or not change their beliefs. It becomes very difficult to really accept any of those old myths or any of that stuff as truth. You're like, well, they're not talking about this whole other stuff that we just discovered about, neuroscience and things like that. But to me, it's just like the number one thing is like, we're monkeys with shoes. We really are, right? Like we are, we're monkeys with shoes.
I'm stealing that quote.
Yeah, we're monkeys. Or was it? I think in the Matrix they call it. We're viruses with shoes. I think in the Matrix of that movie. But either way, like we're not. We're not rational. The unconscious mind is way more in charge than the conscious mind. You know that. Like the unconscious mind is making. You read enough, and they do these studies on perception, and they do these studies on decision making, and they've done things where they've basically shown like that your body will reach for the button before you make the decision to reach for the button that you know about. Right? Like there's two buttons, and your unconscious mind has already decided, and then basically oftentimes when you think you're making a decision or using your free will, it's already been decided by the rest of your brain and the rest of your body. They're just kind of justifying it for you, basically. You're justifying it for yourself because we want to feel like we're making choices. But the more I read about free will and choice making and things like that, it's like, no, we don't really make any choices. Like, we don't actually make the choices. Like, the conscious us, the us that we think of as us, doesn't really... We're kind of just along for the ride in a lot of ways.
A good example would be people with, like, an addiction problem.
Yeah.
You know how that...
Yeah.
Or, those people, what's that saying? I'd quit if I wanted to.
Oh,
I quit if I wanted to. It's like
You don't
you
have
can
power.
quit, but it's already created. Now,
Yeah.
Oh, my back. What do you feel that your mission in life is?
I don't have a mission in life. I'm not one of those people. I don't set goals. I'm not one of those people either. Partly that may be because I've been spent the last couple of years really sick. But it's interesting when I saw that I was like, I don't have a mission in life. My mission in life is, so again, I'm an atheist, and I think I'm a pretty moral atheist. And my mission is basically, this is all you get. Don't be a dick. Have fun and try to leave the world better than you found it. That's really it. But that's really it. Like, I don't have a mission. Some people get very specific in their goal setting, and they're like, I need to make this amount of money by this time, and I'm like, I guess that works, but I've done pretty well without doing that. For me, it's mostly just like I've already exceeded every version of success I could have imagined when I was a teenager. So for me now, it's just like, what's fun? What's interesting? How can I have an impact? How can I play in the world in an interesting way that's not evil, essentially? And for me, that's mostly marketing stuff. I love my job. I love telling stories and getting paid for it. I love getting deep into what really motivates people. I love having employees and being responsible for that. I like that we're able to build a company that actually gives health insurance and an income to people. Like that's my. So I don't really have like a solid like this is what I must do before I die. I must destroy the Death Star. I don't think that way. And I've never done a vision board or anything like that. I've never done goal setting at all. I mean, I guess I've made goals like, my goals tend to be, my goals are win. That's it. Like, whatever I'm doing, I was talking to some people I'm doing some work with on the phone right before we got down here, and I was like, we're all excited about this project. I think it's going to go very well. And I'm like, yeah, something about me is I like to win, and anything I'm going to put my energy towards, I want to be the best thing in that, the best of that thing, basically, right? Whatever that means. If that means it has to, like Language of Desire ended up being the best relationship product launch in ClickBank's history. And that made me happy. That made me happier than the money it made.
The last time I checked, I think you guys had 300K in sales.
Now we got up to 500 actually, during our launch period, we got to 550, and we're probably closer to 700,000 or more now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
folks. If you can study with Mr. Moneyfingers.
We can't though. Weird. Yeah.
And Mr. Moneyfingers knows Michael Fiore, right?
I know of Michael Fiore. My wife knows of Michael Fiore. Yeah. He's me.
She never takes him off in the bedroom and rendezvous.
No, I don't think she's cheating on me with my fictional persona. That'd be kind of weird. She finds the idea amusing. She just laughed about it. I think she occasionally wishes I were Michael Fiore because supposedly he's the perfect man, according to some of my customers.
It's so funny. In the middle of the night, she's screaming Michael. You're like, why are you screaming his name?
Hey, well, no. It's okay. It's my middle name, so it's all right. It's my middle name, so I can use it. It's actually my middle name and my mom's maiden name, so I am Michael Fiore. I'm Chris.
Funny.
Christopher Michael Fiore. Yeah.
What is success to you personally?
My success to me, Dean Jackson, who is awesome, has a great definition of success that he was posted on Facebook at one point. It had like 10 things to it, but it basically came down to waking up every day and deciding what you want to do, having freedom. To me, success is having. My wife and I talk about this sometimes. She'll say, "You only ever do things you want to do," and I say, "Yeah, it's awesome." Right? Like I've worked very hard to get to a point in my life where I don't spend a lot of time doing things I dislike doing. Because why would you want to spend?
Doesn't sound fun.
No, well, you only get 80, 85 years on this planet. Why would you want to spend any of that time doing things you don't enjoy? It doesn't mean I don't work hard. I do work hard, but I work hard on things that I want to work on. So that's a big part of it to me. A big part of success to me is the freedom of doing that. It's not like a lot of people attach success to a certain dollar amount. I got to make $1 million a year. I got to make $5 million a year, or I need to have a $100 million a year company. And I don't particularly. I don't really care about gross numbers or anything like that. I just care about having more than we need and being able to live life the way I want to live it, whatever that might be. I don't personally have particularly expensive tastes or anything like that. So, the idea of buying a Ferrari or something like that does absolutely nothing for me. So maybe I'm just weird that way. But success to me is, what success really is. Well, I'm not going to do that either. I got investments. But success to me is like a combination of freedom to do what you want when you want to do it, and the respect of people that you want, whose opinion you actually value. That's it, really. Are you known for being I like that I'm known for being good at something. That feels good. Success for me is winning. Having a product go off and do really well. That means a lot to me as far as my self-esteem goes and as far as my happiness goes. Success means having the ability and the resources and the freedom to help other people that you think need help and you want to help. And being able to play drums whenever I want. Yeah, that's kind of it.
What do you believe about the people you're trying to sell to?
Depends on who they are and what I'm trying to sell. I believe they are looking for someone to lead them more than anything else. I believe that they are deeply in pain over a particular issue, whatever that might be, and that as human beings, we are always looking for an alpha. We are always looking for somebody else to shoulder the weight. We're always looking for somebody else to be in charge and tell us what to do, and in not sometimes different niches, but they're looking for somebody to solve the problem for them. That's what I believe about pretty much everybody. Everybody's looking for someone else to solve the problem for them. They want to be able to relax and not have the anxiety of the unknown or the anxiety of having to work really hard.
You want somebody that's already gone through it.
Yeah, you want somebody, when I do consulting with people now, they pay me quite a bit of money to do what I already know how to do because I've already done it, right? So there's confidence there. There's okay, well, you've obviously built quite a successful business yourself. Can you help us do the same? I'm like, yes, I can do that by talking to you and telling you what to do. Here's what it will cost, right? And they're happy to pay it because I'm going to help them get success because I have a track record at that point. But about people I'm trying to sell to as far as consumers of our relationship products and things like that, I have a lot of respect for them, I guess. I have a lot of I understand where they're coming from. I understand how desperate they are about whatever it is. How much I believe they're in pain and they will do pretty much anything to get out of that pain. And that as a marketer, you have a responsibility to deliver a quality product that will actually fulfill the promises that you make. By the way, not everyone believes that last part. So, not everyone believes that last part. There's a lot of scumbags out there who will sell things that are absolute crap. So we don't.
Cough, WSO. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh God, yeah. Oh Jesus. I think those, but yeah.
I was on that rat race for a month. I think I spent $30, and I was like, yeah, this is. I think there was one product there was actually somewhat decent, but everything was pretty much junk.
Well, you know what though? You know what that's preying on though is you're not going to learn how to be an internet marketer and be successful by hanging out in the Warrior Forum ever. You know what the secret? By the way, here's the secret to actually doing this shit. I've been doing this for 10 years now, I guess, maybe 11, and I spent the majority of that time as a freelance copywriter, and then the last 4 years I've been running my own business, which is better, by the way. Being a freelance copywriter kind of sucks. It's not a good way to make a living. I mean, it's better than digging ditches, don't get me wrong, but it's not you're not going to build wealth that way, generally speaking. I totally lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the actual secret to success in this is do the fucking work. The secret is that project that you've been putting off because you think you're not good enough, and that project that you've been putting off because you think you haven't learned enough from the gurus yet, start it and finish it and get it out to market and learn your lessons that way. That's really it. You don't need to be the most amazing copywriter in the world. You don't need to know everything about SEO. I know nothing about SEO. You don't need to know how to build a website. I know nothing about how to build a website. You just have to have the confidence to go out there and create the world the way you want to create it, to create, to put yourself out there and take the risk and believe in yourself enough to say, I can do this. My wife, when we first met, was when I was starting the Michael Fiore thing, and she asked me, who made you a relationship expert? And I said, I did. And that was true. I did. And, I figured, hey, I know enough about this. Let's go. I read a lot of books. I put together good material. It helped a lot of people. There you go. You don't need permission to be successful. No one's going to give it to you anyway. Yeah.
I've had some people talk to me about the whole thing. They're like, well, you're not a divorced guy. I'm like, I understand that. But like one of my values, I love being able to help somebody with one niche I'm in. I want to help divorced guys with their relationships.
Yeah.
But with that, I don't.
That's a good sub niche, actually. I mean, it's a good. Yeah. But by the way,
I don't have a problem.
My answer to that, by the way, is very simple. Do you need your surgeon to have had a heart attack?
Exactly.
Like that's how I've always answered that kind of thing. Like, oh, well, you're not divorced. I'm like, well, do you want to go to will you only go to a heart surgeon if he's had a heart attack first? Because I think he knows.
You're not divorced. Like you're not divorced. Like yeah, because I found out how not to get divorced.
That's a big one too, actually. Yeah, I'm not divorced because I'm going to teach you the way not to get divorced again, because it's a pattern that you're going to fall into again and again.
Now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I'm doing with the modeling, I'm doing this thing called deep transcendental.
You're a model. I can't wait to see the.
Exactly, you should see it with me and my.
The swimsuit pictures must be great.
I'll wear my thongs for you.
Totally.
Hairy chest.
Mm-hmm.
No, but with the modeling, what I'm doing is called deep transcendental identification, where it's how a lot of kids learn, where it's natural, where you become your role model. It's just how we model people. Anyhow, the one thing I'm doing is called an event matrix, where I need for somebody that I'm trying to model, such as you. I know it sounds mystical.
You're gonna have to get a little taller. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What was it? A little taller?
Yeah. I'm assuming I'm taller than you. I don't know. Yeah.
Taller and kind of bald.
Yeah, but that part's easy to shape your head. That'd be great, actually. Yeah. I would love it if somebody was like, I need to learn how to write copy like Chris, and they just shave their head. That's actually not part of it, by the way. So
that's kind of creepy.
It's extremely creepy.
No, I tried to shave my head once, and I looked like a Mexican skinhead. I looked like an idiot. That's the last time I did it.
Yeah.
Then I realized I actually have quite a lumpy head, and I look really bad.
I was blessed with an extremely round and symmetrical head, so it worked out pretty well.
It is perfectly round. Don't want to sound too creepy, but it's perfectly round.
Charlie Brown, baby. I'm lucky in that way. I'm not lucky in that I went bald when I was 23, but I am lucky in that I have a head that looks okay bald. So. Mm-hmm.
That is one bit of luck.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was going to ask, what are 3 or 4 events in your life, I guess throughout your life path, that have really shaped you as an individual?
Things that I'm willing to talk about in public. That's the tough part. Certainly my father's death, which happened when I was 19, has had a huge impact on me in a lot of ways. Discovering direct marketing had a huge impact. Like the first time that I wrote a sales letter that actually made a sale was huge. Getting paid to do that really changed. Did
you go from 6 to midnight with that?
What do you mean by that?
Up and down, 6 to midnight.
Yeah, largely, yeah. Because it was, for me, that was, I think like a lot of people, I just didn't have a lot of self-confidence. And when I was in my mid-20s and early 20s, I was one of those guys who was doing temp gigs and could not figure out a way to get a job that would actually keep me on for any length of time. I got fired from a lot of jobs and deserved to be, because I was this ADHD adult mess with no self-confidence and didn't think I was worth anything and thought I was going to be poor for the rest of my life. And discovering direct marketing and getting good at it pretty quickly and getting to the point that I was making 6 figures in it pretty quickly was shocking and had a huge impact on who I am and who I was, gave me the ability to see that I could be something in my life and that I had a skill set or a talent for something that actually could be marketable in some way. That was huge. And then starting my own business, I would say, actually, beyond that. I mean, speaking at Jeff Walker's seminar several years ago was a big event. That got me a lot of exposure and opened a lot of doors. And then, more importantly, that was just finally getting out of my own way, because I was in my own way, and starting my own business. Because for years, I was writing copy for other people, and I was selling, I did the math in my head the other day. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm a 9-figure copywriter. I've written copy for products that have sold well over $100 million worth of stuff, probably a multiple of that. But I'm not worth that. I haven't made hundreds of millions of dollars, but I've written the copy that's driven those kind of sales. And I feel like I wasted a lot of time hiring that out to people for X thousands of dollars as opposed to using that skill set for myself. And it wasn't until I started my own business, and that's where the freedom came from. When you start your own business, that's where the freedom comes from if you do it right. A lot of people start their own businesses and they try to do everything themselves. They don't outsource. They don't hire people, and it becomes a trap. But if you can build a company where you're only really doing what you should be doing, as opposed to what you need, everything that's out there, that's where the freedom comes from, right? So that would kind of be it. But it's mostly just for me. I mean, actually, there's one other thing I guess I could say. A big turning point in my mind was when I discovered I'm not an artist, if that makes any sense. I've done theater, and I've played music, and I've written plays, and I've done all that stuff all my life. And there was a moment in my mid-20s somewhere where I kind of realized that is not what drives me. I like doing it. It's fun. I have a good time. I still write plays. I still act sometimes. I do things like that. But it's not. I'm not driven to just create art for the sake of creating art in any way. Like, it does not. It's not what I'm in it for. And accepting that about myself was a huge mental shift and allowed me to enjoy business and enjoy commerce and enjoy marketing in a way that I couldn't before, because I would feel like I was, oh, you're not doing the right thing. You're selling stuff instead of writing this blah, blah, blah thing. I'm like, well, yeah. And I enjoy it. It's fun. Why not?
Oh, sales is a blast. I love sales.
It's a good time. Yeah, I like it. And I mean, my kind of sales is even better because I write something, and I'm making money right now off of things that I wrote 5 years ago.
It's funny. One objection that I get once in a while, so I'm at one of those kiosks, people come off, give them a discount for doing the timeshare presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while, I'll get those people. I don't know if you've ever done face-to-face sales, but you'll get those people that are very patronizing. They'll pat you on the back, like, oh, you're a good salesperson. For a while, I would be like, if I'm a good salesperson, why aren't you taking this?
Yeah.
And finally, what I started doing when they're like, oh, you're a good salesperson, I would kind of lean back. I'm like, so you think I'm a good salesperson, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, prove it to me. And I just stop. At that point, then I'll look at the wife, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, let me know. I'm like, does your husband always try to BS salespeople just to get out of it? At that point, then they're like, then they know, like, shit, I shouldn't have said
that. You caught them, because they're like, we just wanted the free trip. We don't want it. I'm like, yeah, well, that's the plan. We know that.
Yeah.
Like, we know no one wants to be pitched on a timeshare. That's okay. But we just want to get you in the room so we can actually do our jobs. That's this is the deal you made, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
And then one last question.
Yeah.
What are you at? What are you at your best when you're in the flow? I guess you could describe it like, I'm like this, I'm A, or whatever.
You mean when I'm in the flow working? I'm usually talking at 1,000 miles an hour, or I'm sitting there with my headphones on, and I'm just, excuse me, it's the words are just coming out, basically. It's just like you're sitting at the keyboard, the whole world goes away. You're not consciously thinking about what comes next. You're just typing it because you know what comes next at that point. Like, your subconscious has already figured the whole thing out at that point, and you're just letting the words get out there, and you're not editing yourself, and you're not worrying about it, and you're just writing. It's just, I love that state. I love that flow state. It's addictive. And sometimes I get it when I'm just talking to people. If I'm like talking about a marketing problem, or trying to figure out a hook, or trying to figure out a title for a program or something like that, and your brain just starts firing, and all these cool connections start coming out, and you go, yes, this is it. That's it. I just get excited, I guess. My wife can always tell when I'm working on something. She's like, you're so excited when you work. I'm like, I know, it's fun. What can I say? Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that. Are you one of those ADD kids? Mm-hmm. Mine's always bouncing around. Yeah, I can tell your eyes always bouncing around.
I am an ADHD poster child. Yes, but easily. But hey, you find a way to make it work. So I'd be really bad at desk jobs. So.
You know what your wife should do? She should get a laser pointer. I'm pretty sure that would work pretty good. But pointing everywhere.
I'd be chasing it around the room all the time. How awful would that be? But Yeah, I know, but again, for me, it's just like when you're in flow, it's just it's when again, flow for me is those brief moments when you really can't focus on just one thing and you only want to. It doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, I'm thinking about several things at the same time, annoying as that is. But sometimes you just like you get to that. It's actually funny because like we were driving home from something the other day, and I was thinking about stuff and talking out loud about this project I'm working on. And Ash, my wife, wanted me to do something with her when we got home, and I was like, and then she's like, but first you need to go to your computer and dump all this out of your head. I'm like, yes, I do. It's very important.
You're looking like a puppy dog. Like, come on, let me do it.
Yeah, I'm almost like, because otherwise I got to hold it all in my head. Like, I don't want to do that. Jeez, this cup is only so big. What am I do?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think we're nearing the end of it. Before we do it, I know you like jokes. I've got a good review.
Sure, go for
it. Had this German couple, the German tourists the other day.
Mm-hmm.
First, I asked them 2 jokes. First, I asked them, like, so how many goals did Germany get against Brazil? They're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, a Brazilian. I had to explain it to them. The second one, so I asked them, you know that there's a marker, John McCulloch, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very.
I don't think I know him personally or anything like that, but I've heard
the humor.
I've heard the name.
He wrote a joke on his Facebook wall. But anyhow, I asked these Germans, I'm like, so what's the difference between war and soccer? Like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, sometimes Germany wins at soccer.
Oh.
Yeah, and they kind of laughed like, oh, that is not funny. I was like, oh, but it is true.
It is true at this point. I mean, the 2 major wars, they were kind of they won before that, though. The two things, they were vicious.
Yeah.
Just the 2 big ones.
They aren't really known for humor as well.
No, the Germans not so much. Unless it features defecation and whips and chains and all sorts of other strange things.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I don't get that joke.
Mm-hmm. Weird. But anyway, I hope you got what you wanted. So there you go. Just ramblings from Haddad. So I can certainly ramble for a long time.
Yes, you can. Everybody,
mm-hmm.
If you like this podcast, leave a comment below, or I don't know if my camera's frozen. I can see my stupid face sitting there.
No, it's a good picture. It's nice. Yeah.
Exactly. I kind of look retarded with my mouth hanging open.
Well, retarded is not the politically correct term anymore. You just look like an idiot. But there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I look very challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you very much, and you got to be getting out to Kauai pretty soon.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Yeah, we haven't been to Kauai actually. We've been to Maui, we have not been to Kauai, so